Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, I might be a little reddish, but that's from the beach and the sun in the summer. But Yankee fans are calling code red as their lead in the AL East has now dwindled down to single digits. So we'll go over this disastrous homestand for the Yankees against their AL East foes. This is following a disastrous road trip in this disastrous August we've been in for the New York Yankees. Look at all that. Look at some of the moves that Cashman made to try to spark some life in his team. Hasn't really worked. And we'll look back at some of the trades that Cashman made. See, again, now a couple of weeks have gone after that. Take out the report card and did Cashman's move pay off or not? But before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. So get weekly wrap-ups, updates, and so forth. Get more content. It's exclusive for podcast subscribers. So you like to watch me, like to see me, but you probably love to hear me. The only way you can do that is go to wherever you get your favorite podcast. Type in Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast. You'll see the show come up. Click it, follow it, be part of the crowd. Again, get content, get notified when new content comes up throughout the rest of the season, and I'll hook you up in the off-season as well. Well, as you may recall, the Yankees had a lead in the AL East, which was as high as 15.5 games. And you figure by this time of the year, they'll just kind of cruising into September, maybe get resting some players, positioning their pitches for the playoffs. But unfortunately, it looks like the Yankees are probably going to have to scramble to the very end, as again, both the Toronto Blue Jays and Tampa Bay Rays have been nipping on the Yankees' heels. But mostly for the Yankees, it's been self-inflicted wounds, and this has been terrible since the All-Star break. And of course, had that road trip earlier in the month of August, where they went 2-7. Come home now, you figure opportunity where you're going to host both the Tampa and Toronto Blue Jays teams that are again trying to climb up the AL East ladder. Opportunity for the Yankees to knock them down. Unfortunately, for the most part, this home series for the Yankees has been quite disastrous. Almost getting swept twice by Tampa and Toronto. We'll get into that in a little bit. But of course, the Yankees, the injuries keep racking up, and of course, this looks bad that some of the trades that Cashman made haven't really been paying off, and plus just the pieces that Cashman traded away have been flourishing elsewhere, meaning Jordan Montgomery, and we'll get into some of those numbers, which will just drive you nuts. But Tampa was the first team to come into town. Now, for the most part, early this season, the Yankees was like almost finally slayed the dragon against Tampa. But remember that Tampa team right out of the gate. Wasn't the full Tampa Bay. I mean, they had a lot of injuries early on. I mean, the Yankees really in spring training and the early part of the season, the reason they got out to such a great lead was that they were probably one of the more healthy teams in the AL East. And Boston had injuries to start the season, of course, and of course, Chris Sales is a complete dumpster fire there. But Tampa had a lot of injuries, especially to the pitching staff. So the Yankees really set up to get off to a good start, and luckily they did for their own case. Otherwise, they'd be kind of a little bit more in trouble than they are now. Fans are overreacting a little bit, but still, Yankees, did themselves well by getting out to such a great thing. But Tampa, as the months came on, got a little healthier, started to put it together a little bit, and then finally, the Yankees took care of the business early on. But you can see Tampa coming on stronger now. I guess especially coming on with their pitching. But it would be an opportunity where maybe the Yankees again kind of set the line in the sand again, but unfortunately did not. And Tampa took it to the Yankees, and the Yankees were very, very, very lucky to not get swept here. So the first game was against Garrett Cole. Now, Garrett Cole, there was some whispers about him, a few weeks ago. He's not really having an ace-like season. Again, we pointed out that he just seems to have these, innings where just one inning implodes and gives up 4 or 5 runs. The rest of the game is fine, but he just has these bad innings. We've seen it time and again. But now he got the tough break in Seattle. Again, threw up 7 innings of scoreless baseball, but it got no run support. The Yankees ended up losing that game in extra innings. So this was a situation where Cole similarly only gave up 1 run, and it was really the 1 run was a mistake. It was what should have been a fly out to Aaron Hicks in center field, but unfortunately he misplayed the ball. Not as silly as when the ball hit Jose Canseco over the head and went over the wall as a home run, but it was grossly misplayed, as I recall, and what would lead to eventually Hicks being benched for Estevan Florial, allowed eventually a runner on third for Tampa. They would score, and the Yankee offense would do absolutely nothing all the way, and that was part of the Yankees' problem throughout the whole road trip, not scoring any runs, getting twice getting shut out, 1-0, losing to the Cardinals in one game, losing 1-0 in that Cole game we spoke about earlier, and then Cole takes another hard luck loss. The Yankees lose that first game 1-0. Again, the Yankees just can't push across the run, just frustrating there, which then brings the Yankees to the second game with Mr. Nestor Cortez on the mound, and this game was pretty much over in the first inning. Randy Arozarena, who's haunted the Yankees a couple times, especially in the 2020 playoffs, hits a 3-run home run in the first inning. The Yankees are down 3-0 before you blink. The Yankees would scratch one run across, but lose this game 4-1. And again, just scoring 1 run, and the misery started. This fans are getting a little pissed off at this point. and it caused Cashman to push the panic button. So he decided to bring up some youth. So we've been hearing this while, why not bring up Estevan Florial? Bring up Florial. So finally Cashman pulls the trigger on that. Not only brings him up, but as well as Oswaldo Cabrera, who's been hitting a little, hitting for the Yankees in the AAA there. Just try to instill a little youth into this team, a little energy, because they just look pretty much dead there. But unfortunately, they haven't paid off much dividends. The only one I would say was Cabrera, just making some great plays in the field, and he's very versatile. I mean, we see him at shortstop, see him at third, see him in right field, making some great plays. The two of them really haven't gotten to go with the bat, but they figured Cashman, at that point, had no choice. And of course, I think the misplay ball that Hicks had in that first game really did him in there. So this was the final game, the finale there with Domingo Germán on the mound there. Didn't really have his best stuff. Again, he's been getting better steadily for the Yankees. But in this game, would be in a 4-0 hole for the Yankees. But eventually they would climb back into this game slowly but surely. In the 8th inning, Anthony Rizzo, again, he's been dealing with a back issue a little bit, in and out of the lineup a little bit. Hits a home run to tie the game 8-8. This game would eventually go into extra innings with Aroldis Chapman on the mound in the 10th, top of the 10th there. Now, for the most part, lately, Chapman has been good. He's been answering the bell as a 7th to 8th inning, and he's someone you may want to they might want to consider close this with Clay Holmes going the IL for a while. But Chapman, a little sloppy, a couple of walks, and then, of course, a 2-run bases clearing double put the Yankees in a hole 7-3. Now, this is, in the 10th inning, so you figure, the game's over. But Josh Donaldson gets an opportunity with the bags loaded to hit a dramatic game-winning grand slam for the Yankees. Again, just unlikely, unpredictable there. The Yankees able to salvage that last game. So great, you have this great moment, but the Yankees are really inches away from being swept. And just the fact that, you like to enjoy the moment, like to enjoy the night, and good for Donaldson. And I would say for Donaldson, that was definitely his Yankee moment. Now we've seen, Donaldson got actually the game-winning hit on opening day, and Donaldson has hit a couple of big home runs here and there a little bit. Again, he's been overall, you'd say, probably a disappointment a little bit, especially with the batting average, and he would say it himself. His only saving grace has been his defense, but offensively, really hasn't been a good year for Donaldson at all. But again, able to save the Yankees bacon and has his Yankee moment just at the right time. And again, he becomes the third Yankee player behind Babe Ruth and Jason Giambi to hit a game-winning walk-off grand slam when the Yankees were down 3 runs. So very dramatic there, but you really can't enjoy it too much because you just see, they just had that one good inning, that's it. You just see the misery of the road trip, losing the first 2 games, losing most of the way this way. You don't feel you're back yet. And then, of course, they don't really back it up there because when Toronto comes to town, they don't really fare much better. So the Yankees lucky to salvage that last game, but you figure maybe, such that final wouldn't be so emotional, and maybe they'll spark the team, they'll get them going. Unfortunately, it didn't. Ended up losing the first 3 games against the Toronto Blue Jays, but we'll break down a little bit. But the first game was kind of important because it'll be the first home start for Frankie Montas. Again, he was basically he was probably the big name in all the trades the Yankees made. Bringing him in there, again, a deal for J.P. Sears and a couple of prospects. Again, at the time looked very good. Again, Montas, I guess, once Castillo came off the board going to Seattle, he became the top starting pitcher out there, and the Yankees would secure him. So at the time, it seemed was a good move. Unfortunately, first 2 starts weren't terrific. Now the first one, of course, in St. Louis, but again, he was away for a while with the team. He had a bereavement situation and a new team, new uniform in a ballpark he's not used to pitching. Again, he was with the Oakland A's, an American League team. So you understand why he got kind of roughed up a little bit. Now that was a game where he didn't actually take the loss. Man, he didn't do well. It was only in there for 3 innings. That was a game where the Yankees offense actually showed a sign of life, but they ended up losing the game overall. But that was probably at least some offensive output there. The second game was up in Fenway. It was the Saturday game. It was the only game they won up there the other weekend. Again, the Yankees were lucky to win there at the skin of the teeth. He wasn't terrible in that game. Didn't give them much length. He got out of a bases loaded situation. He only gave 2 runs, but it could have been much worse. But we really haven't seen a strong start, at least at that point, up for Montas. But you figure, all right, this is a home debut after a dramatic win. Maybe it'll be a chance for him to break out and re-show something for the Yankees and the fans. Unfortunately, it wasn't. Got creamed. Really, it was in that second inning that did him in. Ended up giving up 5 runs, capped off by a 3-run home run by Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Put the Yankees in a hole, 5-0. The Yankees would scratch a couple of runs, make it 5-2. But then the Yankee bullpen, including Albert Abreu, who's just been terrible for the Yankees. And Toronto just go on, mash the Yankees for a 9-2 win. So just so much for that, dramatic home run sparking the team by Donaldson there. And for Abreu, the Yankees tried a lot of situations, especially on the long road trip, to put him in high leverage situations. He failed miserably, so they had to put him in a low leverage situation. He also failed there. So, it was a good story, Abreu last year, and they brought him, especially they were able to trade him for Trevino, get an all-star catcher, then they bring Abreu back, and then, it was good early on, but just really been faltering lately, and has really been going down really falling down in the bullpen, the graces of the bullpen, and eventually he would end up having to go onto the IL with some shoulder issues. Maybe that was the reason, maybe it wasn't, but the Yankees getting blown at this one. But more importantly, Montas now with a third underwhelming start. He did tough it out, give the Yankees at least 6 innings, but responsible for 6 runs, 8 hits. Again, not a good outing overall, and the Yankees dropped the first one. Now, the second game was Taillon. Remember, Taillon took a hard luck loss in the final game against the Red Sox, ended up losing 3-0. He didn't pitch terribly, just gave up 3 runs. The really big blow was the 2-run home run by Rafael Devers, but overall he had a good start. But just again, he got absolutely no run support. The Yankees lost the game 3-0. This game was almost identical to that. Identical. Taillon only gave up 3 earned runs in the game, capped off by a 2-run home run by Teoscar Hernandez. But he got no offensive help by the Yankees. The Yankees blanked in this game, blanked by Kevin Kosman. He went 7 innings, striking out 7, and then the bullpen able to finish out. And the Yankees ended up dropping the second game now 4-0. Again, another game where the Yankees being shut out. Really nothing to cheer for this team, except that it was one of the games where Oswaldo Cabrera made a great diving, a great leaping play in right field to rob a home run. That's the only thing fans had to cheer about. And, you figure, all right, well, you have the new guys, Florio and Cabrera in there, offensively not really helping at all. And this is now, you just see the frustration starting mounting up. You had the situation with Rizzo you saw in the Tampa series where, he took his helmet off, started smashing the seat with it. I believe that was the first game where Cole lost 1-0. Now you're going to start seeing the Yankees getting a little chippy here, just getting very physical because they're hearing it from the fans, and they're hearing it from themselves, not scoring any runs, and again, dropping the first 2 games. But you figure out maybe game 3 with Cole, he took 2 hard luck losses in a row. Maybe the Yankee offense will wake up for him. We're not really turning out to be the case. So at game 3, when Cole on the mound, he was starting to look like, the ace like he was in the previous 2 games. Just not getting no run support. Only gave up 2 base runners in the first 4 innings, was cruising along, and unfortunately had one of his 2022 Cole moments in the 5th there, getting slapped around. Would end up giving 4 runs, back-to-back, 2 doubles by both Jackie Bradley Jr., the former Red Sox, who Toronto picked up, as well as Alejandro Kirk. Now on the Kirk one, Benintendi kind of went for a dive on the ball. Questionable where he should have done that or not, but then they come up with him. Again, that ended up being a 2-run double, and Cole was behind 4-1. And after as the inning finished, the Yankee Stadium crowd probably gave Cole his loudest boo he's ever gotten. He's gotten some smatterings, but this was probably the most vile and vicious one today, because you just see the frustration mounting from the fans, and you just saw him in the dugout just smashing his glove, punching the roof of the dugout like that, again, kind of what the Brett Gardner did with the bat infamously. Luckily, he didn't pull a Kevin Brown and punch the wall and fracture his wrist like that. So, thank goodness he had his mind for that. But obviously, Cole the Golden Boy there and everything, never really got a really hard booing from the Yankee fans. Well, he definitely got it this time. And then after the game, you would see Aaron Boone, smash his fist onto the ground in the press conference. I thought it was a little phony there. Again, the Yankees ended up losing this game 5-2. Gleyber Torres did hit a home run in the 8th inning to cut it to 4-2 there, trying to add another run thanks to a Matt Chapman home run there. Again, the Yankees ended up losing 5-2, so scored 2 measly runs, and again, one of them from one of the new guys, Esteban Florio, with a little infield single that went through the shortstop hole. Wowee. Again, and now the Yankees dropping the first 3 games to the Toronto Blue Jays, but scary enough what happened that their double-digit lead in the AL East dwindled down to single digits, and that's really the scary part, because you still have a couple of weeks left in August, and you have an entire month in September. So, I mean, if you're the Yankees, you almost, in a way, want this season to end just so you can lock in a playoff spot. Well, now you're looking at the possibility that, hey, can they possibly blow what was once a 15.5 game lead? So the Yankees then, again, losing that game, the 3rd game, and now you're at the point where you're thinking you possibly might getting swept there. And at that point, you're wondering, how would they react to that? Now you see fans, clamoring and yelling about fire Boone, fire this. I just think that's ridiculous. There's no way it's going to happen. It's just too late in the season. And again, you had no problem with them literally like a little bit more than a month ago. Again, when the Yankees seemed like they're rocking and rolling all the way, and all of a sudden, like, what's changed? Well, you can't really point to anything he really done or not done. I mean, basically, he just had some injuries. Mainly, he had the issue with DJ LeMahieu and his toe, where we found out, again, he needed a cornerstone shot during the All-Star break. Again, you had Anthony Rizzo out a bunch of games. Okay, during that road trip, he did finally come back, but you figure, is he really 100%? And again, if you don't have those guys, really, those are the two main guys that have to be hitting around Judge. And as you've seen, that the Judge home run pace has really hindered down. Man, a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about, hey, maybe you could possibly catch Roger Maris. Maybe you can catch Barry Bonds, possibly. Well, you're not really hearing that talk too much because his home run rate has really fallen off because the guys around him aren't hitting. So if the guys aren't around to hit him, basically pitchers don't have to give him anything good to hit. So that's why you're just seeing him not really do much lately. Just goes, so really just filters all up and down the lineup. But again, there's nothing you can really point to with Aaron Boone doing that. Can't really point to Aaron Boone that, once you have Clay Holmes, pretty much untouchable for the most of the season. All of a sudden, can't throw a strike, and of course has the back spasm issue where he has to go on the IL. Man, I can't really put that on Boone as well. So a lot of stuff really out of Boone's control there. So the idea of firing him is crazy. But maybe he's hearing from the fans, and again, that's maybe why he slammed his fist down during that press conference. I thought it was a little bit of an act, kind of, as I mentioned the podcast. Remember a couple of years ago when the A-Rod took the MLB to court, or the Yankees took him to court, whatever it was. I think he was trying to, because they were trying to get him suspended for the 162 games, so they didn't have to pay him. And he kind of said this is BS, and he banged his fist on the table and kind of walked out of the courthouse there. Very reminiscent of that, so very uncharacteristic for Boone. So again, I don't know if that was an act out. I don't know if that was meant to fire up the team, but it did help in the fourth and final game, because maybe with that and maybe with the hoopla of the retiring Paul O'Neill's number, they were able to final salvage win and avoid getting swept for a second series in a row. So again, in the previous Tampa series, it was the Josh Donaldson home run which saved the Yankees' bacon from being swept there. This time it will be Andrew Benintendi finally doing something to save the Yankees' bacon from being swept against the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, before the game started, interesting moment. Of course, they were retiring Paul O'Neill's number. I'm not going to go rehash that whole argument. I don't really think they should. I understand why they would, but again, the Yankees have a lot of retired numbers, but fine, whatever, I'm okay with it. But before the game, obviously, they had a little ceremony for him, and of course, it was an opportunity for Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman to be on stage here now. I don't know. I guess, you can kind of understand Hal being there. I think if I was Cashman, I would not have been there because it was going to come down. And the Yankee faithful poured booze down on both of them just for the drop-off this team's had lately. And, of course, the trades that the Yankees made don't seem like to really be paying off. Again, I know Benintendi would finally wake up late this game and kind of maybe make Cashman look good for at least a game or two. But nevertheless, Yankee fans boomed them, which I think it's kind of tough there to do that in a situation because obviously you have Frankie Montas in the dugout there. You have Lou Trevino in the dugout there. I mean, you have the guys you brought in there, and it's like, all right, they hate us. They think we suck. And I just don't think it does good for anybody's psyche there. I know fans are upset like that, but I just never understand doing that, especially even at the worst when, back in there when A-Rod was just struggling there. I just don't see how it helps the player to boo them. They're not gonna just do well just because if they're like a bad person or they just do something really stupid, then I can understand like that. But I just don't think raining boos on the team like that just helps. It's gonna make them any better like that. I understand New York's a tough place to play, and we'll tell you how it is and all that mambo jumbo. But still, I just don't think it was appropriate. But nevertheless, fans expressed their displeasure. So for the game itself, it was Nestor Cortez versus Alex Manoah. Now, interestingly, early there was a little moment in this game. Again, the Yankees took a lead early on, bottom of the first, DJ LeMahieu. Able to get a hit now, Anthony Rizzo with some heads-up base running, thanks to a throwing error by Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Again, Rizzo, not the fastest guy in the world, but very smart on the bases for the most part. Again, he's able to sneak a steal once there, or he's able to have good instincts on when to go. Able to steal a run there on the error. The Yankees went up 1-0 in the game. But again, an interesting moment with Alek Manoah against Aaron Judge. Manoah actually ends up hitting him with a run on second. Now the thought was that, well, the run on second, first base open, is he hitting Judge kind of on purpose because he figure, all right, why not do it because the base is open anyway? I don't think so. I mean, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, Judge has been ice cold, especially during the Toronto series and even in the Tampa series. So it's not like, Judge has been killing us this series. We got to hit him. Doesn't make sense. And the Yankee team has been absolutely flat and deflated for a few weeks now. Again, there's no reason to even do that to spark the team. Again, Toronto's been the more aggressive team, the better team, the more complete, accomplished team during the series. So it wouldn't make any sense hitting Judge or to spark like that. So the fact that Cole came out, started jarring him a little bit, kind of surprising that. Obviously Cole being that aggressive. Luckily, Judge was smart enough just to tell the Yankee bench, players on the bench, stay in there, don't come out, don't start a fight or anything. Judge and Manoah would have a few words. I guess they worked it out, saying, hey, look, it wasn't on purpose. And I don't think it was, because I don't think he's looking to hit Judge there. Because let's just say he throws at Judge, and maybe the ball goes behind Judge. Well, you had a run at second. Well, that runner can now go to third base, and now you have a runner in scoring position who can now possibly score on another ball thrown in the dirt. So again, made absolutely no reason to hit Judge on purpose. So that's just my opinion on it. For the game itself, though, Toronto would tie it up thanks to a Whit Merrifield solo home run against Cortez, but that was Cortez's only blemish for the Yankees. Only gave him the one run. Had a good start, and the Yankees did finally get him a lead in the bottom of the third thanks to DJ LeMahieu. An RBI single scored in Benintendi. Yankees went up that point 2-1. Now, Toronto threatened a little bit. They would end up tying the game in the seventh inning. Now, this was like a dicey moment. With a runner on first and third, they bring on runners on first and second, bringing out Wandy Peralta, who for the most part this season has been reliable for the Yankees. He's gotten us some big jams, but hasn't been faltering a little bit. I may possibly get a little bit tired there, but he's probably one of the few guys you actually trust in this bullpen right now that's just been completely injured and hampered and not performing well. But unfortunately, Peralta would not be a good performance for him. Ends up giving a single as well as a bases-loaded walk to the lefty Jackie Bradley Jr. Again, lefty on lefty, you would like Peralta's, you think he would have the advantage in that situation, but ended up walking Jackie, walks in a run, and at that point the game is tied 2-2. And then Boone has to go to the bench to bring on Lou Trevino with Vladdy Guerrero Jr., one of the most dangerous hitters in baseball, up an opportunity where he gets one swing of the bat, can clear the bags, and now the Yankees are looking at a 6-2 deficit, which the way the season is going lately for the Yankees, you figure that's going to happen. But Lou Trevino, who came along with Frankie Montas in that trade, has possibly met, you might call his Yankee moment, the way Johnson had his Yankee moment. This is definitely the most important out Trevino's got. He has since come into the Yankees, able to get a ground out in that spot, and the Yankees avert disaster and walk out of there with a 2-2 tie, which, again, at that point, bases loaded, you would take that any day. And then the bottom of the second, one of the other new Yankees finally kicks in there. Andrew Benintendi, who we've all been waiting on, again, has been with the Yankees for a couple of weeks now. The Yankees got him shortly before the official end of the trade deadline, but overall has been quite disappointing. Again, he came here as a Yankee, and we'll get into some of the numbers as a 320 hitter. Has not been that for the New York Yankees, with no home runs to boot, but finally against the tough right-handed pitcher Adam Simba. Now, Trevino gets some credit here too. Led off for the inning with an infield it was kind of what you call a swing and bunt, a little dribble to third base. And again, as we know, Trevino always hustles, able to get to first base, so he was able to get on. Marwin Gonzalez was able to bunt him over, so he put a run in scoring position. But Benintendi, instead of worrying about a double or single to get him in, goes with the 2-run home run. Now, ironically enough, he actually pulled a line drive shot right the pitch before against Simba. So at that point, you figure maybe Simba will maybe take a little something off, add a little something, get his timing off. But Simba went pretty much to the same type of pitch. Benintendi timed it better and was able to get a 2-run home run into the second deck. Finally, his first Yankee home run there. Again, much needed in a big spot. Gives the Yankees the 4-2 win. And I guess with the bullpen depleted, Boone decided to go with Trevino the rest of the way. And he was able to close out both the 8th and the 9th inning. Again, for the rare, 2.1. Now, it wasn't considered a save because when he was in there, the Yankees took the lead. So he actually ended up getting the win. But had to go a little bit more than 2 innings to get it. And again, probably his best moment so far since joining the Yankees. And the Yankees able to finally salvage that last game. And just good to see Benintendi, who the Yankees fans have been waiting on to do something, because again, so far you have to say he's been a disappointment. Not like the Yankees had to give up a ton to get him, but still, you think coming in here being a 320 hitter, a Gold Glove and all of that, a contact hitter, something the Yankees need. He was the anti-Joey Gallo. And then, of course, you see Gallo, flourishing a little bit in Dodgers. We'll get into that, but of course, big moment for Benintendi. It's good to see him get up this night. So again, some of the new Yankees, Trevino, Benintendi, finally paying off. So it's all the fan frustration. Well, of course, you understand that the Yankees, have a horrible August, and again, since the All-Star break, have been 9-20, which is a terrible drop. And the reason being is that again, fan expectations after the trade, expect what they're getting right now, way off there. Remember, the Yankees, you bring in someone like Frankie Montas. All right, great, we got someone you guys a number 2 starter, and it's all right, we got rid of Gallo, but now we have Benintendi hitting 320, a 320 hitter. Wow, great, the opposite of Gallo. And then, of course, you figure, all right, what's wrong with this team? Well, you got to break down a few things. Obviously, Benintendi, for the most part, for the Yankees. Again, I know he had the big hit in the finale against Toronto, but with the Yankees, he's been pretty about a 230 hitter. So not the 320 hitter we've been getting. Whereas you look, the guy we got rid of, Joey Gallo, now they're in Dodger land. Now throughout the first 16 games for both teams, the Dodgers were 13-3 with Gallo. The Yankees were 3-13 without him. So now what you're expecting. And Gallo hitting 222 for the Dodgers, at least at this point, with 3 home runs. Now, if he would have hit 222 for the Yankees, he would not be traded. He would still be a New York Yankee. But you have to understand, at the point, he was hitting $160 at the time. So you have to understand that, look, at that point, you have to get rid of him. I know you can't be upset what happens afterwards, but you really have no control of that. So we don't know if it was a psychological thing. Maybe he likes LA better. He feels less pressure. Again, Cashman made the thing that the fans don't show up to the third inning and they leave by the seventh with the terrible traffic there, out on the freeway. Nevertheless, you really can't. There's no way to predict that Gallo would do that. Again, if he hit over 200 with the Yankees, he would probably still be here in a Yankee uniform. But unfortunately, wasn't. A move had to be made, so you really can't be upset about that one. Really, the big one that I think fans seem to be upset about is the Jordan Montgomery one, because that one no one really saw that coming. Now, since with the Cardinals, 4-0 with an ERA over 0.34. So this guy's pitching an ERA less than a run of an ERA. And his fourth start with the Cardinals was a complete game one-hitter. In Chicago on the road. I mean, when did Jordan Montgomery ever give the Yankees a performance like that? And at the time they let Montgomery go, again, the Yankees were 0-6 in the games he started in July, and he gave you no indication it was going to go on some run like that. So again, is it psychological? Is it a change of pace? Is it a new uniform, pitching for the team that, all of a sudden he flourished like this? Again, I'm sure if Cashman saw that he was going to go on a run like this, sure, I would not make the trade. You might as well keep him at that point, and because that's obviously much better you're getting from Frankie Montas right now. But again, there was absolutely no indication that he was going to go on that run. So again, the move to get Bader, of course, okay, that you could question, because why are you training for basically I don't want to call him a utility outfielder, but he's a semi-starter. Again, we know he has great defense. Maybe he's a specialist, outfield specialist like that. Do you trade a top-notch, proven, at least durable starter for that? Maybe not. You could question that, but of course, once he made it for the move for Montas, again, it made him expendable, and they figure, all right, let maybe get something for this guy. Let's make a deal for him. But of course, it just backfires in Cashman's face there. But really, there's nothing there's really no way to foresee that. I mean, no one predicted that. And plus, he never gave performances like that for the Yankees in the past. So how can you predict that something like that would happen? And again, a lot of it could just be pitching for a new team in the National League. I know they have the DH now, but still much different than pitching in a Yankee uniform in the AL East. And of course, arm in arm in that has been the underwhelming performance of Frankie Montas so far in his first three starts for the Yankees, pitching to an ERA around 9 with about 16 runs in 18 innings. So very underwhelming there. So definitely not what you're looking for there. So again, you have a week left in August and then an entire month of September. So some of those players mentioned could get better, and you see Benintendi getting a little bit better. But so far for Cashman, if you want to grade his trade line moves, you have to give him a gigantic F. So again, the Yankees with a terrible August, we all know that. But good news for them in September. Both Toronto and Tampa, the two teams that are nipping at the Yankees' heels there, will face each other a couple times so they could beat each other up. Gives the opportunities for the Yankees to get healthy. And as you see, DJ's starting to hit a little bit, and Rizzo's starting to hit a little bit more. And it looks like Stanton's just around the corner now, rejoining the team from his Achilles injury. So that should protect Judge in the lineup, and we should see some more long balls. He's not going to meet Roger Maris there, but the Yankees should be able to survive in September.